Hello everyone and welcome to episode 3 of Sights on Sinnoh. My name is Will, and today I'm joined by, again, another new co-host.
Hi, I'm introducing myself. I'm Greg. You may hear me on a number of other podcasts, at least 2, possibly 3, depending on how deep into things you get.
The lore.
How deep in the lore.
Yeah, Greg is our veteran podcaster host, and probably I'd say a veteran fan of the Pokemon series, if that's correct.
Yes. Ever since it started in 98 for America.
Oh, okay. And did you start with the anime then also, or was that something later on you jumped on?
So I started playing the games first, and then noticed shortly after, like, oh, I enjoy this game. Oh, there's a cartoon to watch, and I'll try to catch it when I can. I mean, I had a full-time job, so it was if I managed to catch it, I would catch it when I could. But I've watched most of all of the anime.
Okay.
As they happened, as much as I possibly could.
Got it. Okay. How familiar would you say you are with Sinnoh in terms of games and anime?
I mean, I played Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum.
Okay.
Diamond was the first one I ever completed a Pokédex in.
Oh, cool.
I remember watching the Sinnoh anime.
Oh, okay.
I have vague recollections.
Perfect. Okay.
Of the Sinnoh anime, and when I rewatched my 2 episodes, I went, "Oh, this is why I only have vague recollections."
I did try to balance out the episode quality by giving you, a little bribe in the form of a Roselia.
I mean, look. Nando is the only interesting character. Nando is the character that's actually doing what every player did in the game, which is try both.
Yes.
And like the dichotomy that they always put in these systems, that you either are a gym person or a contest. Like, what makes me frustrated with how they present contests and other things in the games is there's a complete battle component in the contest. So they do their beauty pageant part, and then they're like, and now make a beautiful battle. And I'm like, that's exactly what happens in gyms. Like, contests combine both. So they always set up this weird sort of, hey, it's one or the other.
Yeah, I definitely like that this is showing, hey, this is a possibility and very much something that everyone does.
Very much. I mean, I get the idea of like focusing on one or the other, which is fine. As a character arc in a story, they should focus on one, so it's not like, let's watch Ash battle the gym leader and then Dawn do the exact same thing.
Yes.
Like, I get the reasons why. What I found frustrating in the episode is that they're having a fight over it.
It's totally unnecessary.
There's a lot that's totally unnecessary.
And just for context, before we go further, I'm going to read a quick blurb about the episode, in case people want a recap on it. And this is episode 4 of the Diamond and Pearl series, titled Dawn of a New Era, which I want to talk about later on. But the blurb reads, Dawn is still trying to catch her first wild Pokemon, but Ash's coaching isn't helping her at all, and both trainers are getting annoyed. The outlook suddenly gets much brighter when Nando, a traveling Pokemon Bard, B-A-R-D, has his Badoo use Sunny Day to lighten up the mood. To show Ash her skills, Dawn requests a contest battle with Nando, but Badoo's grass-type moves are too tough for Piplup. Badoo wins, and our heroes head to a Pokemon Center, where they learn that Nando can't decide whether to dedicate himself to Pokemon contests or gym battles. So, yeah.
Okay. Let's start with the fact that the animation style and the voice acting in these first episodes is real rough.
Well, I want to say this episode in particular has like the lowest budget for animation.
Oh man, it was a rough watch.
There's things that are like off model. Pikachu's really weird to look at.
They just made a lot of cheap choices. Like,
and
it feels like it doesn't even feel like. It feels like the plot itself shouldn't be a filler episode, but they just said it's just a filler episode.
The
dynamic that they are trying to, at this point, make between Ash and Dawn doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, they are just antagonistic towards each other for no good reason, and I know that they're like trying to find a not Misty aspect of Dawn, but this isn't helping because they're just doing what Ash and Misty did all the time, but not as good. And like, Brock is just there.
Brock's the adult.
Brock is like an actual adult watching these, and their ages are really weird in this because Brock has been allowed to age, so like he is talking about his family taking over, and he's allowed to go. So like time has passed for Brock, and he is maybe an adult. And Dawn's mom's like, "Great, adult man and male child, take care of my daughter. I have no stake in her upbringing anymore."
She's out of my parental control. I'm not paying her my taxes.
They get to that Pokemon Center, and they haven't even nailed Dawn's worry line yet. Her tagline that actually gets towards the end. Like, even that doesn't play well in this episode. And I'm like, wow, you just had no clue.
Yeah, it's definitely a rough sketch, both in animation and story. Because Dawn's character just suddenly becomes super aggressive for no reason. Just like starts fighting with Ash, and I'm like, what? Why? Like,
and she's trying to catch a Baneri. The Baneri that we know gets caught because it's in the opening sequence.
Well, that's the thing.
The credits.
So this is the second Baneri she's tried to catch. And later on, in the opening sequence, you see the Baneri, but apparently I'm pretty sure it's not the same Baneri as these first two instances.
I mean, who knows? We don't know that. We don't know what the Baneri have been doing. They don't focus on them.
When we get there, I'll kind of explain more my theory of why it's the different one. But yeah, going to the thing that kind of breaks up the fight is Nando and his Badoo, who uses Sunny Day, and this inspires Dawn to battle him, which they
do like, oh, it's suddenly hot, and we're gonna stop arguing. Okay, like it's not like it was cloudy this entire time.
There's like no comparison.
It's like it's brighter. How could you tell? If it wasn't for the fact that they're suddenly just saying, wow, it got suddenly a lot brighter, like nothing about the surrounding changes.
Yeah, like make it rain or something.
Or make it cloudy, like to reflect their foul mood. And meanwhile, Brock is still doing nothing. He is just there. Be like, hey, remember how cool Brock was?
Yes. He does. Okay, this is the part that I think is the weirdest. Brock is like, I'm excited to go to the Pokemon Center. Let me bring out my Bonsly.
Yeah.
For like no reason apparently other than to say to Ash, oh, this is the only Pokemon I brought with me.
Yeah.
Why?
Why
just this one?
Why? Anyways, finally the star of the show appears, Badoo.
Yes. Very much.
To fight the only character worth any interest in the series so far, which is Piplup. Piplup is consistently the best part of all these episodes. I don't know how they nailed Piplup's personality so well and flat up failed on the two main characters.
It's easier when they don't have actual dialogue.
Is it? I don't think it is.
There's less pitfalls, but I don't know, more opportunities to be cute.
You get more emotion and empathy and understanding out of Piplup saying Piplup multiple times than Ash and Dawn screaming at each other.
Piplup is the one who realizes that Baniri gets away, so I'll give it that.
Piplup is the only one that's paying attention.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Piplup is the only one that has any business being out in these woods. And then Dawn straight up loses, like she should.
Yeah, I mean, this is her first battle.
Like, Piplup's level 5, it's clear that Badoo's at least around level 16, level 17.
Yes. I think that was a cute introduction of Badoo. Like, you would normally, I don't know, I'm guessing most people would assume it's pretty weak and just don't bother with it. But here, it takes down Piplup, which isn't a big challenge at this point.
Yeah.
But later on, it does take down a Carnivine by spinning in a corkscrew and knocking it off, like, Piplup, I think?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. But before we get there, they meet Nando, who we talked about at the beginning, is deciding between Pokemon contests and Pokemon battles. The real constraint in this case is that it's not a video game, so he actually has to decide to dedicate his time, given that
he doesn't have to decide.
Well, okay.
He is thinking he has to decide. Let's be clear.
True.
He has convinced himself that it's an either or prospect.
Yeah. Would you say then that maybe this is more just Nando standing out as someone who's very talented in both?
Yeah. I think Nando is like on the path. Like, he knows what he's doing. He somehow has a Mew harp that he doesn't really play yet. He just has it.
Oh, I did notice that.
He clearly has access to TMs because Badoo can't learn Sunny Day without a TM. So he's been around the block. Yeah.
And it has Bullet Seed, which I don't think it can learn naturally.
It can't learn Bullet Seed either. Okay. Like, according to the games, it's got Stun Spore, Mega Drain,
Absorb.
Well, you would have gotten rid of Absorb for Mega Drain, which it does use.
Worry Seed?
And then Worry Seed at level 16. So he had to have taught it Bullet Seed as TM and Sunny Day as TM. So he's clearly got money.
Yeah.
Or he's defeated a grass gym leader that gave him Bullet Seed.
But yeah, Nando is like the voice of reason in this episode, as both.
Nando is also an adult.
That's true.
Clearly 100%. You cannot argue that Nando is not an adult.
Yes. Though his voice...
there is nothing kid about any of his actions.
I will say his voice felt weird. It wasn't the most fitting for what I thought his character would be. Like, they tried to give him an accent? Maybe?
They tried to give him an accent, and they tried to make him lyrical to be like the bardic part. So they tried to give a musicality to his voice that I think probably existed in the Japanese version much better than it does in this. But yeah, they tried to make him seem more enlightened and more mature-ish, I guess. Like, I mean, compared to the two brats that have been fighting for the first half of this episode, it's like it's not hard to do. And then, he puts Dawn in her place, which, good job, Nando.
Yeah. And, like, they go out to the forest to find him.
But they go to the Pokemon Center to heal up. They call Dawn's mom, who's like, okay, I'm writing off my daughter.
Yeah, all yours.
Good luck. All yours. You know what she's like, so you know why I'm leaving her.
Yeah.
And then I think I blacked out as to why they decided to go. What? Okay.
I can.
Is it in my memory that they started fighting over what they think Nando should do, and then decided to go find him to yell at him to pick their choice? Is that really the plot point that drives them back out into the woods?
Basically, because Nurse Joy is like, "Oh yeah, that's Nando. He's trying to decide between the two." But one detail before they leave the Pokemon Center, which I thought was interesting, is that they show all the starters again, but they show Piplup's evolved form, Prinplup. And he's just a random trainer shows up, and Dawn's like, oh, okay, I'll scan the Pokédex. It's like, wait, what? Like, this isn't going to be a moment for Piplup? And we're just going to show the evolution now, apparently.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, Piplup doesn't need to evolve. Piplup is already the perfect Pokemon for this series.
Definitely.
There's nowhere else to go. When you have perfection, you're good.
I will say, the weirdest part about it is just like you're debuting the Pokemon here, but you give it like 5 seconds of screen time in this episode. But yeah, they go outside and follow Nando, but so they follow Nando out into the forest in what I presume is like maybe 5-10 minutes of following him or trying to find him. And then Don's like, oh, let's go back. And Brock's like, oh, we can't. It's too late. We have to camp out here.
I'm like,
how long have you been following him? Hours?
I mean, it felt like hours. So I'm with Brock. I think Brock was like, maybe I'll just leave these kids in the woods and I will go spend my life with Nurse Joy.
Yes, that would have been the smart choice.
I mean, again, like Brock does this Nurse Joy thing in the Pokemon Center, which is fine. They go out into the woods. They argue the entire time. And I think they were trying to express that they were caught in their argument so long that they lost track of time. But I don't remember the background changing enough to suggest that it's dark.
Yeah. Well, it's like night, but it was already kind of night when they left the Pokemon Center. So I don't see how much time happened.
Why? And then of course the arguing draws the attention of Nando, right? Like
Team Rocket is there trying to trick him into an inn, and then Dawn tries to battle, but she's just didn't learn from the Badoo battle apparently that water types aren't strong against grass, so we have to really pin that down in this moment. And Badoo comes in, saves the day like a boss.
I mean, at least Team Rocket has a new phrase for this series.
A new motto. Yes.
It's not good.
I kind of like it. It grows on me.
I mean, it grows on you because it has to, because they will say it for the next 40, however long episodes Sinnoh is.
No, they'll say it long for the next, 100+ episodes.
It's just, it doesn't, what was clever about the first one and what's clever about some of them is the fact that they get the evil model wrong. And, they are saying, they are basically saying we are good people, we're going to do good deeds. And that is not what's happening much in this motto, if I remember correctly. I have to
this one's more just dramatic.
Yeah, which it doesn't really fit their characters.
I mean, this season, I will say, is probably the most development, at least for Jessie, as we'll get to later on to Pokemon Contest. But overall, it's not the most fitting, at least at this point. I would love them to kind of explain more of how they plan out the motto, because that would give it a little more significance. But at this point, Team Rocket's out of the picture. Badoo beats them. And Nando is like,
I will read the motto. I have the motto. And it's a weird one.
Should I read the other half?
Sure.
All right.
Do you want to be Jesse or James?
Whichever one you don't want.
I'll be James.
All right. I'll be Jesse. Are you reading this from Bulbapedia?
Yeah.
Okay. Listen, is that a voice I hear?
It's speaking to me loud and clear.
On the wind.
Past the stars.
In your ears. Bringing chaos at a breakneck pace.
Dashing hope, putting fear in its place.
A rose by any other name is just as sweet.
When everything's worse, our work is complete.
Jesse.
And it's James.
And Meowth, that's a name. Putting the do-gooders in their place.
We're Team Rocket. In your face. So... unlike the ones before, this is just first of all, the first section makes very little sense.
True.
And Meowth in your ear is just why is Meowth just insults this entire time?
What's the voice they're talking about?
Yeah. Listen, is that a voice I hear? Of evil? Of rockets?
Is that themselves? Or are they
Yeah, are they it's the weirdest motto. It's just it's such a weird change. And then the second thing is just pure like, we're gonna dash your hope. We're gonna bring chaos. Like these are this is no longer the sort of we're goofy Team Rocket who does good but still and are bad at being bad. This is like we're just pure chaos. Then a rose by the name is just as sweet. Makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think why I like it is kind of that juxtaposition between the like bravado of this model versus like how goofy the music and their
it's
body
just,
language is.
Having not heard it for so long and listening to it, I'm like, this makes zero sense. And the things that they're saying in the order that they're saying also make zero sense. Like there's not one thought that makes sense with the other, because a rose maiden name is just as sweet. When everything's worse, our work is complete. How are those two thoughts linked? Like a rose maiden name is just as sweet makes no sense in that. Anyways, they're there. They do their thing. We have another. This is another thing that I didn't like about Sinnoh, that I just generally have complaints about these sort of weird middle anime stuff, is how much they rely heavily on tropes of the other series. And like we have Carnivine once again chomping on James' head, which was Victory Bell's whole thing. We have Ash and the girl fighting. We have, it's just like, okay. I will say, like, it gets way worse in the next episode.
Really? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we'll get to that. But to finish off this episode, Nando kind of makes them resolve their differences by saying, like, hey, if you're just quiet, enjoy the peace of the forest, you'll get along, is kind of what it comes down to.
Which really is like, hey, if you two would just shut up, you could maybe just relax a bit.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Not a bad piece of advice.
It's not bad advice. It's definitely what an adult would say to two arguing kids.
Yeah. And then Dawn apologizes. And then like they just get along, decide like, oh yeah, we're different, but this whole conflict started in this episode, so it's not super meaningful, but thankfully, I'm pretty sure it's gone moving forward. They're never like fighting about this dumb thing for no reason.
Yeah.
But what does happen instead is a battle between Pikachu and Badoo, where we see Mega Drain, and it looks really similar to the game's animation, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
They do some nice CG there.
Yeah, they do. I mean, the fights are still good. Again, this is an unfair fight, because at this point it is clear that Ash's Pikachu is level 100. And I would put Badoo, based on the fact that it evolves around level 20, because that's about when it happens in the games.
Do the friendship.
You do the friendship. So Badoo thankfully evolved into Rosalia, the star of the show. Yes. And they should have ended the episode, but they didn't. And I don't know why they're always shocked by evolutions happening in battles. Like,
I'm assuming there's battles that happen off screen where they don't evolve, though.
I mean, there's battles on screen where they don't evolve, but every time they evolve in battle, every time they're super shocked. Like, I didn't know Pokemon evolved. Like, yes, you did.
To be fair, I can really relate to Ash, because when I first played through Diamond as a kid, I had a Badoo that I caught early on. And it didn't evolve for me until I got to the Elite Four and battled my rival right beforehand. And
how poorly did you treat that poor Badoo? What were you doing to my baby? What did you do?
I don't think I put it in battle very much, because it just didn't have moves, and it kind of didn't realize.
It gets friendships when you walk with it.
Maybe I put it in the box and then brought it out later.
Nobody puts Badoo in the box. How dare you?
Yeah, that was my first mistake. But I was literally what Ash's line is when he says, "Rosalia? Badoo evolves into Rosalia?" And that was me to a T. And I'm so glad that I was also in the anime, because clearly, like, Ash knows Rosalia. He battled some in Hoenn.
Right.
And now he's like, what? This Sinnoh Pokemon evolved into an old Pokemon? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good thing to sort of introduce that. Hey, some of these. Hey, the entire dex in
yeah
in Diamond and Pearl is a lot of evolutions.
Yes,
Just a lot of evolutions.
and something that I'm curious to hear your opinion on is: do you think that Nando is going to be a character of the week that we just never see again?
I mean, I know Nando comes back.
Oh, okay.
I do know that they run into Nando a couple of times because there's just not a lot of contest trainers.
I appreciate that they bring him back because, and he's an early one that they bring back because for May in her contest, she meets a lot of people that just never come back. Drew's the only one for a long time.
I think they sort of. I think one of the few things that Sinnoh does well is they do like carry characters around quite a bit.
Yes, and even like some cameos, like you see flashbacks where like someone battles a character that we saw. That is pretty much it for this episode. Any thoughts on episode 4, Dawn of a New Era?
It's a rough episode. Like a lot of the decisions don't make a ton of sense. They going to the Pokemon Center basically to meet Prinplup and then leave again. That entire thing could have happened if them just hanging out with Nando. They didn't need to have this fake argument over contest gyms. Like, it was weird that it's weird to me that two people, having just met a stranger in the woods and battled them once, are suddenly so invested in this person's choice to take on gyms or contests that they leave shortly after dinner when it's getting dark to find him in the woods they just left after complaining about not having a bed to sleep in for a while.
Right.
I think my biggest issue with them is there's just a lot of plot convenience theater actions where it's just like, well, we need to do this to get the plot moving. And we need to introduce these things, and we really want the players to know in the game you don't have to make a choice between, doing one or the other.
Do you think that message came across to people when this was coming out?
I mean, I think it was a push for it. I think it was also to sort of introduce the idea that you could do both, because I know like contests are generally not the most popular thing that happens in the main series games. I think it was their push to say, hey, sometimes the world chooses both. It's not okay. It's maybe the only point of this entire episode, other than to say, here's this new Pokemon Badoo. By the way, it evolves into Rosalia, right. And we wanted to show that on screen, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I'm. Like, I didn't see this when it was coming out, but I wonder if I would have put more effort into my Badoo.
Well, you should have.
Exactly. What would you give a rating to this episode?
What's our scale?
Scale is 1 to 10.
A 4.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 4 also.
It's just not.
It's a lot to talk about, but not a lot good to talk about.
No. It just... If it didn't feel so rushed, if the animation didn't feel so rushed, it just feels like they were like, we really got to get these out because the game's coming out, so ramp it up.
Right. Just step up the production. The first 3, I think, or at least the first 2 were in like a movie format special, so they released the same day. So then this one's like, all right,
get something done
to it.
Get the photocopier going.
Color on that. Okay, good. All right, print. Oh, wait, there's like 12 animation errors in this. We'll fix it in post.
Kids won't notice. Moving on.
But yeah, moving on, as they say, to episode 5 of Diamond and Pearl, titled Getting Twiggy with It.
Which, okay.
You already have thoughts?
I'm already mad at the title.
Really? Okay. Do you think it's better or worse than the last one?
Worse. First of all, you're referencing a song from 10 years prior. A song that your audience probably doesn't know, which means the title was a dad joke for the parents watching, and I hate dad jokes and puns. So,
okay.
It's already a nightmare scenario for me.
I mean, isn't that most Pokemon episode titles though?
Oh yeah, believe me, I don't. I have never probably liked a single Pokemon episode title. They're all bad.
Got it. Okay. It's fine. Like I kind of like that they incorporate the name of the Pokemon into it more than like the last one, which is kind of generic.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah, that's the only point I have.
I mean, it's like they had the idea of what can we do with Twig.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, let's talk about the plot in quotes.
Yeah, the blurb here for episode 5 reads: Team Rocket's latest Pikachu snatching plan slips up, and Pikachu ends up lost in the woods. It's found by a friendly Turtwig who defends Pikachu from Team Rocket, but mistakes Ash for a foe as well. During this commotion, Ash and Pikachu are hit by sleep powder from a nearby Oddish. Turtwig takes this opportunity to grab Pikachu and runs off into the forest. Turtwig's friend Clara, a kind old lady, happens upon the scene and explains to our heroes that Turtwig is the leader of the local Pokemon. So, again, there is a little bit of a plot convenience in the beginning of this. I do kind of find
Bulbasaur.
Yes, okay. I was waiting for you to say that. It's very much a callback to Bulbasaur.
The Bulbasaur episode.
Yeah.
It is just the Bulbasaur episode. It is the Bulbasaur episode recycled.
See, kids didn't watch that 10 years prior, though.
Okay.
So, I think, okay.
So? I mean, ignorance of it being copied doesn't make it any less worse than it's basically the same plot.
But the fact that it's kind of the same to me is kind of cool. I don't see that as laziness. I see that as like a throwback to the last time Ash got a like quadrupedal grass starter.
Who's also a protector of the forest. Yeah. And who also has to be convinced by the kindly nurturer that it's okay to leave.
That's true. I wish they just cut out Clara.
Clara doesn't really offer much. It gives backstory to Turtwig that you don't really need.
Yeah, like with Bulbasaur, it was abandoned by its trainer at some point, right? There was some implication there. Yeah, and this one is just wild, I guess.
No, she says. I think she says that. Did she say that it was used to have an owner? I forget.
I don't think so. Looking at the description, she just says it's a friend and protector of the community. She found it in the area, fed it once, nursed it back to health, and it just stuck around.
Oh yeah, she calls finding it in the area, nursing it back to health, prompting to stick around. Yeah. So there wasn't the better backstory of being left by a trainer.
You know, that backstory goes to a character later on, which I think is actually done much better.
Which is actually, yes, that is.
Yeah, I can see the issues of like, hey, this feels way too similar to both.
I mean, they really just recycled. I think it wouldn't be so frustrating. It wouldn't be so frustrating if the animation quality or the character quality or the stuff was well established or looked better, but again, this one feels somewhat rushed. Like they just really stole and took the old plot and slapped new characters on it and said, "That's our next episode. Go, go, go." It feels unnecessarily rushed in all of these things.
The few things that kind of stick out to me are Ash being a little more experienced this time around.
Yeah,
and
Piplup is still the star in this episode. Piplup dodging the razor leaf by hiding behind the rock.
Yeah, he just rolls over.
Is the prime moment in this one.
spinning is actually a big running theme in this season, but I'll get to that later. Like when there's a Linoon that is injured or something, Ash immediately recognizes it's a Linoon and goes over to it, which is cool. While Dawn like looks up the Pokédex because she has no clue what that is. I would say I kind of enjoy seeing Turtwig be a little more prideful than Bulbasaur.
Yeah. I mean, they gave it a slightly different personality.
Yes. And that carries on a little more in the next episode as Ash tries to battle with it for the first time. But speaking of just this episode by itself, I can see how it's a little too reminiscent of that.
Yeah, it's the same episode. And then they're at lunch.
Grabs the Bulbasaur. Or grabs the
Turtwig. See?
Hey, you got it in my head.
They steal Turtwig and Pikachu. Somehow, like, come on. Just fine.
The weirdest part for me is Ash catches up with... Piplup and Ash both swim at the same rate, which I was like, no.
Piplup and Ash are at the same rate. Piplup is sent along for reasons that are never clear.
Yeah, I was like, are you going to drag Ash or something?
What are you going to... Because you can swim fast, and you do this. But no, they swim at the same speed. They catch up to the capsule, which, until Ash is close, neither Pikachu nor Turtwig thought to try to smash the capsule. And then Team Rocket, who is 3 people pedaling, who would vastly outspeed a 11-year-old child swimming and the slowest penguin in the world, decide to speed up and pull them underwater. And here's where Ash dies 3 times. Because he talks out loud and then realizes he can't and gulps a bunch of water. And then they cut away to Team Rocket and they cut back and he does it again. And I'm like, where did he get the air?
Piplup used bubble, apparently.
Would have been great because they do this 3 times. Piplup is just sitting there. He convinces Pikachu to use Iron Tail and Bite and whatever and Turtwig bites or whatever to break and they break the glass. Which is like, why weren't you doing that the entire time?
Guys, come on. Yeah, figure it out.
Meanwhile, Brock and Dawn are making this poor old lady run and she nearly has a heart attack. She's like, I'll chase with. Why? Also, she's not moving that fast. How old is this woman?
And they also catch up to the submarine.
They catch up to everybody because the cage explodes and they're right there.
Yeah.
And they land on the shore and then Dawn says the dumbest line. Good work, Piplup. For what? For what? Good work for what? You swam alongside and stared at a drowning Ash. You did not help the situation one bit. You did nothing.
Yeah,
I mean, granted, you're cute, and I was glad you were there for interest, but don't praise this penguin. It did nothing.
She knows Piplup has a tender ego.
Piplup was ready to let Ash die.
He was like, sorry, couldn't make it. You just have to focus on me. No competition anymore. Brock's next.
Yeah. And then Team Rocket comes back to fight. Like, just cut your losses, dudes.
Yeah. Yeah, they get electrocuted underwater and they don't blast off?
And then they come back and then they have a battle so we can see Turtwig battle again. I don't know why. I think it's to show that he has synthesis. That's not
I thought that was kind of neat, but yeah.
Then they have Seviper and Carnivine attack with just do the same attack over and over again. Poison Tail and Bite. Why? And then they do Pikachu's Volt Tackle, which fine. And this time it sends them blasting off. Like, they didn't need Team Rocket showing up again. You didn't need another battle.
They started with Team Rocket.
They started with Team Rocket. They had another Team Rocket incident in the middle. We already saw Turtwig fight.
It doesn't accomplish too much.
They do the thing where they're going to leave Turtwig Bulbasaur behind. And Turtwig gives the I should go, but I need to stay here thing, which is whatever. And Clara's like, you want to go? And it's like, clearly.
Yeah, I didn't believe this as much as with Bulbasaur, where it was like you saw
Bulbasaur,
nurturing.
at least you felt like Bulbasaur was actually feeling like actually had a big decision to make. This time it was like, oh, Turtwig really wants to go. And then they do the weird thing where, no, but Turtwig wants to battle first. So if Turtwig won after all that, would he just been like, I guess I'm not going now? Like, this is the most pointless fight me to catch me battle. Because Turtwig has already expressed to Clara, I want to leave and go with them.
But didn't Bulbasaur do the same thing?
Bulbasaur at least was more like, I'm going to actually verify that you're a good person. Like there was a bad trainer history there. That at least you could get the sense like Bulbasaur wanted to see how he treated Pikachu, how that battle went. Here we don't have that history. Turtwig's just like, okay, I really want to go with you. Oh, let's battle first. I want to see what.
Yeah, that's fair. I didn't think about that subtlety with Bulbasaur's like maybe partial intention in battling Ash.
Yeah, I mean there was like a trust issue with Bulbasaur that just does not exist with Turtwig.
Yeah, Turtwig shouldn't be as cautious.
And then they do the whole Turtwig bites on Pikachu's tail, and then Pikachu slams it into a tree, which...
Yeah, I was like, all right.
Again, I think it's just to reestablish that Ash can use moves that you can't use anywhere else, and it only works for Ash. Iron Tail will allow you to move him like a judo and slam him into a tree. And then they throw the Pokeball, and then it's like, will he catch Turtwig? I'm like, why does it... Again, it does the three thing when every time another Pokemon has wanted to go with Ash, they have just jumped in. And it's been like, ooh, there's no tension there. We know Turtwig wants to go. We know he's paralyzed. Like, just... And I was like, will he catch it? Will he catch it? Like, what do you think, Dawn?
My theory is that it's more to just show Dawn what the process of like catching a new Pokemon is like, because that's the whole thing. Is like, oh, I've never seen this before, but this is the weirdest choice for this instant. Like, no, this is not your typical catch, Dawn.
Yeah,
like, pay no attention.
Dawn, get your own Baneri. Figure your own life out.
Yeah.
Again, Brock is there for reasons. Like, I just don't think at all in any of these first episodes they know why Brock is there.
Well, Brock, okay. There are two little details that are established here with is his cooking ability and his ability to help wounded Pokemon, which even Clara kind of gives him props about. And it's not huge here, admittedly, but it does come to fruition a bit later on.
I mean, I guess. It's just it's just like, okay, he's there to cook and heal, I guess. And he doesn't really offer much else in these early episodes. He's just sort of there.
Yeah, you don't even really see his Pokemon. He only has one, but you don't even see it like more than one.
He just sort of does his standard shtick, and they're like, okay, good enough. Thanks, Brock.
Yeah.
Like, what they do in the current anime and Journeys is they have episodes that should be 15 minutes only be 15 minutes. And I feel like both of these episodes should have just been 15 minutes. There was no need to show Turtwig basically beat up Geodude and Mankey, and that's how he keeps peace. Instead of doing the thing where you use Razor Leaf to cut the melon in half so they both have
I think
half,
do that.
Which they don't do. That's like the peacekeeping move. Instead, he beats them up, takes the melon, and then brings them a million fruit from somewhere else. Just suddenly there's a ton of fruit. So is Turtwig hoarding all the forest fruit, and that's why these Pokemon like he's just like this evil overlord? Like they found a stray melon that Turtwig hadn't caught yet, and then he beats them up because they didn't follow the rules. It's just weird.
Clara's doing, but telling no one, is getting rid of the local crime syndicate boss by making Turtwig follow along with Ash. Clearly.
It's not a strong. These two are not strong episodes. This one is a solid 2. There are so many weird things. Yeah.
Okay.
This is a solid 2 for me. Again, the characters are rough. The animation is rough. The plot is very recycled. There are aspects of it that just feel forced. Again, Ash should have died 3 or 4 times. Team Rocket coming back again for an episode that really should have focused a lot more on establishing Turtwig's personality. They spend a lot of time with Clara explaining Turtwig's personality, and then Team Rocket stuff that's not necessary. Like, you just don't when an episode is introducing a new Pokemon to the team, it really should be very strongly, this is all about Turtwig.
Right.
Spotlight, and it's just not. It's Turtwig in flashbacks and Turtwig being explained by Clara.
It's not very active on Turtwig's part.
No, and that feels like such a waste for what will become a major team player.
That's true. I was originally thinking of giving it a 5 because I thought I liked it more as the other one. But I think I'm going to put it at 4 because it does have a lot of plot things with Ash and Team Rocket that don't really make sense and feel kind of out of the blue in the same way that Ash and Dawn have their conflict in the last episode that kind of came out of nowhere. So yeah, I'll actually put them both at 4 then. Yeah. I will say it gets better from here.
I mean, it has to. I think the problem with these first episodes is, and I don't know if this is the original writing or it's hard to tell if this is the original writing or if this was the translation team. But like, I don't think they have any clue what they want these characters to be yet. And so in both episodes, Dawn and Ash feel all over the board.
Yes.
Like, you're not really getting that Ash is a very clever battler. You're not seeing how much he cares for Pokemon until later into this episode. He is just bullyish to Dawn, which isn't fitting with any of the way he was before. Like, he's just argumentative, and Dawn is just... She doesn't have I'm going to do contests without knowing what that is, without sort of establishing much about her. And like, she has this catchphrase that has no real meaning yet because she doesn't really she took that, like, I think in the first episode or whatever, she falls out of the tree to get Piplup or whatever. But that's like the only time you really see her as a risk taker until... much later. So her no worries line falls flat because you're like, why is your mom concerned? Like, what about your personality so far has really established that? And I think it's just in all of these beginning episodes in particular, everything feels half done. And that's a shame. Because like, you are starting a new region and you should really be excited and into this. And I think this is during the time of the anime when the American brand was just like, we don't know who should take it. We don't know what we want to do with it. It's just an easy win for us to put it on TV. It's just really rough.
Yeah, and I wonder if that is partially due to the first 3 episodes before this being much stronger and them not really sure what to do during this period until they move on to the next one, because episode 6 actually does show a lot of Ash's development as a trainer and as a tactician, and also just as a character, because it really compares him with Paul pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, these two, I wonder if they were the sacrifices to get those to be good.
It felt like these were the episodes that they had to check off to get them to, like, we have these boxes that we have to check. Yeah. And we're going to get these boxes.
Get this Piplup in here for 5 seconds.
And like, Ash does better when he has a rival.
Yes.
And Paul is a vital part of making Sinnoh make sense, because I think having Paul there helps you sort of forget how antagonistic Ash was to Dawn, and gives everybody, including Ash, somebody else to focus on who actually sort of deserves the abuse that Ash is dishing out.
Okay, but I don't think Ash was abusive to Dawn at all in this episode.
Not in this episode.
Right? Okay.
But they were barely in this episode, right? Like it's a lot of them not knowing what to do, chasing Pikachu and Turtwig around, and then Clara having them over for lunch. Like, there's very little conflict that happens outside of Team Rocket, and the Team Rocket stuff is mostly filler.
When they do these less story-driven episodes, they default to making Dawn the POV character.
Yes.
And that's a shame because she actually has a strong personality in the first few episodes. But I just don't know why they like turn it off. It's like a light switch. You're like, these episodes she won't have a personality.
I mean, this is one of the number one things that bothers me in a lot of TV writing is when they change a character's personality for plot reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not coming from them, but like those two arguing was necessary for them to have Nando appear more as an adult and tell him to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have much. They don't have a lot to do in the next episode because they're really supposed to be focusing on Turtwig, and instead they just sort of scatter it all around. Like, they didn't give him anything to do because they just needed to go from Ash not having Turtwig to Ash having Turtwig.
I think they do try in some level to give them something to do by having Dawn's first reaction be, hey, let me catch that Turtwig. But that's not fleshed out nearly enough for it to be something worth talking about.
You just fought 2 grass types.
Yeah. Yes. That's
and
true.
we're blown back twice.
Did you learn nothing?
Yeah, again, it's just sort of like, plot convenience that suddenly she forgets things. Mm-hmm. These two are just real big fillers. I mean, we got a Roselia out of it, so that's why you get a 4.
Yeah, we got Roselia, we got Turtwig.
Turtwig's the worst starter of this season, so.
Oh man, you are gonna have some fisticuffs with JM, our local turtle guy and turtle owner, but we'll save that for next time.
Turtwig's bad.
Oh, okay.
Turtwig is the most forgettable. Chimchar Fire Monkey, awesome. Water Penguin, awesome. Grass Turtle,
I like all of them. But yeah, Turtwig is...
Turtwig's the weakest.
Turtwig's the weakest, but he also...
But I think
type-wise is kind of the strongest out of the 3 when they're fully evolved.
I think knowing what's coming, it's a shame because Turtwig is just outshone literally almost immediately.
Yeah.
Like,
in the next episode?
In the next episode, when Chimchar comes on and Chimchar's storyline takes over the rest of the series.
That is very true. I didn't even think about that.
And Turtwig is just there it's like, this is his one shot. And then from what I remember, it's a lot about Ash and Chimchar's journey.
Any last thoughts on episode 5, getting Twiggy with it?
God, that name. It's just we're done. We're done with this.
All right. Well, thank you, Greg, so much for joining. Hopefully I convince you to return.
I mean, I'll be back, I'm sure. I'll watch more terrible episodes.
I'll try to find the good ones for you, don't worry. But if people do want to catch up with you, where can they find you on the internet?
So you can find me on Twitter at White Wing. You can listen to It's Super Effective, the Pokemon podcast, where I co-host. You can listen to my actual play podcast, Very Random Encounters, where we play a lot of role-playing games. And still out in the world is Mythical, the D&D Pokemon podcast that I ran for a number of seasons.
For the role-playing games, is that board games or is that video games?
They're all tabletop RPGs. So
tabletop RPGs. Got it.
Like in the vein of D&D, but we have not played D&D in a very long time.
Oh, okay. So
we do a bunch of different
games to that.
Yeah, we do a bunch of different tabletop games.
Perfect.
Every season's a new game.
Oh, cool. Okay. I'll have to check that out then. But yeah, thank you so much for joining, and thank you everyone for listening to episode 3 of Sights on Sinnoh. Stay tuned for episode 4 as we tackle on the next 2 episodes, episode 6 and 7 of the anime.
The Uphill Climb.
Oh boy, is it. Next one's really good though, so I'm not... Stay tuned for that one. You'll like it. All right. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.
Bye.